Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep into the world of autism again today
Sounds good.
and tackling something I think a lot of people have heard about, but maybe you're still a little confused by.
Okay.
We're talking about autistic burnout versus chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
And we're going to be using a blog post from Cheap ABA called Autistic Burnout versus Chronic Fatigue, understanding the differences to kind of help us break it down.
Cool.
So are these two sides of the same coin, or are they totally different things?
That's a great question.
Let's really find out.
And a distinction that is very important to make.
So to kick things off,
Yeah.
can you tell us what exactly autistic burnout?
Autistic burnout is like hitting a wall.
Got it.
It is a state of intense exhaustion, emotionally, mentally, and physically.
Okay.
And it's different from just being tired.
Right.
It's a deep depletion of energy that comes from navigating a world that often feels at odds with how autistic people naturally experience and interact with it.
Okay, so I'm imagining like trying to solve a complex puzzle, but all the pieces are like the wrong shape.
Yes.
It's like frustrating and exhausting.
Exactly. And it's important to understand that this isn't about individual weakness.
Yeah.
It's about the constant effort autistic people make to adapt to neurotypical expectations.
I see.
A process called masking.
Masking. What does that look like in real life?
So imagine an autistic person who finds eye contact overwhelming.
Okay.
They might force themselves to make eye contact during a conversation.
Right.
Even though it's incredibly uncomfortable for them, they're masking their natural response to fit in.
Yeah.
And that takes a toll over time.
Wow. I can see how that constant effort would lead to burnout.
Yeah.
So how is chronic fatigue different from this?
Chronic fatigue,
Okay.
also known as myalgic encephalomyelitis,
Wow.
or ME for short,
Okay.
is a separate medical condition.
Got it.
It's a neurological disorder that involves persistent and debilitating fatigue that isn't relieved by rest.
So even if you sleep for a week straight,
Yes.
you still wake up feeling exhausted.
Unfortunately, yes.
Wow.
It's like your battery is constantly drained,
Yeah.
and we don't yet fully understand why.
Oh,
Researchers are looking at various factors,
Okay.
including potential triggers like viral infections, immune system issues,
Wow.
and even environmental toxins.
So it's a bit of a medical mystery?
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
But what we do know is that it's
Right.
not simply being tired.
Oh, yeah.
Chronic fatigue is a complex illness with a range of symptoms
Right.
that go beyond just feeling exhausted.
So we have burnout stemming from external pressures
Yes.
and chronic fatigue being more of an internal biological thing.
Absolutely.
That's a really important distinction to understand.
And recognizing that difference is the first step to getting the right support.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So we've got these two distinct conditions,
Right.
but they both involve fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
How can we tell them apart in terms of like
Yeah.
how long they last?
That's another key difference.
Okay.
Autistic burnout tends to come in waves.
Hmm.
It can be triggered by specific situations,
Okay.
like an overwhelming social event
Right.
or periods of intense masking,
Yeah.
maybe at a new job.
Okay.
It might last for weeks, months,
Yeah.
or even years, depending on the person and the supports they have.
Yeah.
Chronic fatigue, however, is often a constant companion.
Oh, wow.
It can last for years,
Okay.
although there can be periods of remission where the symptoms ease up a bit.
So burnout might be like riding a roller coaster
Yeah.
with its ups and downs.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
And while fatigue is the main feature of both,
Yeah.
the other symptoms can look pretty different.
Okay.
Let's unpack those,
Yeah.
because I think that's where things get really interesting. For anyone listening who's trying to figure out what might be going on,
Yeah, we're in the
what are some of those telltale signs?
Well, with autistic burnout,
Okay.
the emotional component is really front and center.
Okay.
Think about feeling completely drained, overwhelmed,
Yeah.
irritable,
Yeah.
anxious, or losing interest in things you used to love.
Okay.
Some people even describe it as a loss of their sense of self.
Like that spark that makes you has just fizzled out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With chronic fatigue, on the other hand,
Okay.
you're more likely to experience a constellation of physical symptoms
Okay.
alongside the exhaustion.
Got it.
Things like muscle and joint pain,
Hmm.
headaches,
Okay.
difficulty concentrating,
Right.
sleep problems, and even flu-like symptoms are common.
So with burnout, you're emotionally fried.
Yeah.
But with chronic fatigue, your whole body is screaming for a break.
It is.
This is really helpful in understanding the nuances. And these differences are crucial for getting the right support.
That brings up a really important question.
Yeah.
How do you know if you're experiencing one or the other? Or maybe even both?
That's where self-awareness is key.
Okay.
Paying attention to your body and your emotions is crucial.
Right.
Here are a few questions to ask yourself.
Okay.
For potential burnout, consider
Yeah.
if you're feeling emotionally depleted, overwhelmed by social situations,
Yeah.
avoiding activities you used to enjoy,
Right.
masking your autistic traits more than usual, or experiencing heightened anxiety or sensory sensitivities.
And for chronic fatigue,
Yes.
some key things to consider are whether your fatigue is constant and not relieved by rest.
Right.
If you're experiencing physical pain, brain fog, or sleep problems,
Yes.
or if you've had any recent viral infections or immune system flare-ups.
If you're nodding along to any of those,
Yeah.
it's worth reaching out to a healthcare provider.
Right, because sometimes these conditions can fly under the radar, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're often misdiagnosed or dismissed. So advocating for yourself and finding a healthcare provider who truly understands both autism and chronic fatigue is super important.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to speak up and keep searching until you find someone who really listens and validates your experiences.
And remember, you are not alone in this.
Yeah.
There are so many resources available, including support groups and online communities where you can connect with others who understand what you're going through.
It's all about finding that sense of community and shared understanding.
Yeah.
They can be so powerful on the road to healing.
It really can.
Yeah.
Now, while we've been focusing on the differences, important to acknowledge that there are some overlaps in how both autistic burnout and chronic fatigue can impact daily life.
Right. Because it's not just about feeling tired.
Exactly.
It's about how that fatigue affects everything you do.
It can make it difficult to function at work or school, maintain relationships, engage in social activities, and even just manage basic daily tasks.
It can feel like you're constantly swimming upstream.
Yes, and that can be incredibly frustrating, especially if the people around you don't quite grasp what you're going through.
Right.
This is why raising awareness about these conditions is so crucial. We need to break down the stigma and create a more supportive and understanding environment for people who are struggling.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked about the differences.
Right.
But are there any similarities in terms of how you manage or treat these conditions?
That's a great question.
I'll quit.
Pacing yourself and setting realistic limits is a great place to start.
Got it.
Learning to prioritize your energy and avoiding overexertion is key for both autistic burnout and chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
This might involve reducing your workload, saying no to social events, or even just taking breaks throughout the day to rest and recharge.
Yeah.
It's all about finding what works for you.
And building a supportive environment is super important too. Surround yourself with people who understand and respect your needs.
Absolutely.
Try to reduce sensory overload whenever possible.
Yeah.
And don't hesitate to ask for accommodations at work or school.
Right.
You have a right to them.
Those are all great points.
Yeah.
Therapy can also be helpful for both conditions.
Okay.
Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, can help you develop coping skills.
Okay.
For managing stress, anxiety, and negative thoughts. It can give you tools to navigate those challenging moments.
And for chronic fatigue specifically,
Yes.
are there treatments that target the physical symptoms? Like pain, sleep problems, and brain fog?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
This might include medications, physical therapy, or lifestyle changes like dietary modifications and gentle exercise.
Right.
It's about finding the right combination of approaches
Yeah.
that work for your individual needs.
So it seems like the journey to healing often involves similar strategies,
Yeah.
pacing, support therapy, and symptom management.
That's a great way to summarize it.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that recovery is possible for both conditions,
Right.
though it might look different for each person.
Yeah.
Finding the right combination of treatments and support is crucial for getting back on track.
Now let's bring it back to our listener.
Okay.
What can you do if you suspect you might be experiencing autistic burnout or chronic fatigue?
First and foremost, don't ignore those feelings.
Okay.
Pay attention to what your body and mind are telling you.
Right.
And reach out to a healthcare professional. Talk to your doctor,
Yeah.
a therapist, or a specialist who understands these conditions.
And remember what you said earlier.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself if you feel like you're not being heard. Keep looking for a healthcare provider who listens and validates your experiences.
And remember those online and offline communities we talked about.
Yeah.
Connecting with others who get it can make all the difference.
Right.
You are not alone in this journey.
So those communities offer incredible support.
Yes.
Valuable resources. And that sense of validation that can be so essential for healing.
And never underestimate the power of self-care.
Yeah.
Engaging in activities that bring you joy,
Right.
reduce stress, and nourish your mind, body, and soul is so important. This could be spending time in nature, listening to music, reading a book, or connecting with loved ones.
Yeah.
Whatever helps you recharge and feel grounded.
Those little things can make a big difference. And remember, recovery is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
Be patient with yourself.
Yes.
Celebrate small victories.
Yeah.
And embrace the process.
Absolutely.
It's all about progress.
Yeah.
Not perfection.
That's such an important reminder.
Yeah. Now, before we move on,
Okay.
let's touch on a crucial point.
Got it.
The intersectionality of these conditions.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's important to recognize that autistic individuals who also experience other marginalized identities, such as people of color, LGBTQ plus individuals, or those with disabilities, might face unique challenges and barriers when trying to access support and treatment.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Their experiences might be even more complex.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we also need to acknowledge that systemic factors like discrimination, lack of access to resources, and societal pressures to conform can contribute to burnout and fatigue.
Right.
It's not just about individual experiences.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the bigger picture.
It's about understanding the context.
Absolutely.
And creating a more inclusive and equitable society that values neurodiversity and supports the well-being of all individuals. Absolutely.
Well said. Okay, so we've explored what autistic burnout and chronic fatigue are, how they differ, and how they can impact people's lives. As we wrap up this deep dive, I wanted to kind of shift gears a bit and talk about prevention. What can we do, both individually and as a society, to create a world where autistic people are less likely to experience burnout in the first place?
That's such an important question.
Yeah.
It's not just about managing these conditions. It's about addressing the root causes.
Exactly. So where do we start?
Well, I think education is key. The more we understand about autism and neurodiversity, the better equipped we are to create environments that are truly supportive and inclusive.
I love that word, inclusive. What does that look like in practice?
It means designing spaces that are sensory-friendly, offering flexible work or school arrangements, and embracing different communication styles. It's about recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all approach and valuing the unique contributions that autistic individuals bring to the table.
So it's not just about making room for autistic people. It's about valuing their perspectives.
Exactly.
And celebrating their strengths.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it's about challenging those societal norms and expectations that contribute to burnout in the first place.
Yeah.
We need to dismantle those systemic barriers and foster a culture of acceptance and belonging.
I love that culture of belonging.
Yeah.
That sounds like a world I want to live in.
Me too.
What can our listeners do to help create that world?
There's so much we can do.
Okay.
Start by listening to autistic voices and amplifying their perspectives.
Got it.
Educate yourself and others about autism and neurodiversity. Advocate for policies and practices that promote inclusion. And most importantly, treat autistic people with respect and dignity.
Those are all such powerful actions that anyone can take.
Yeah.
No matter where they are in their journey of understanding and allyship.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Small actions can have a ripple effect.
I agree.
It all starts with awareness and a willingness to make a difference.
This has been such an incredible deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I've gained so much valuable knowledge about autistic burnout and chronic fatigue, and more importantly, about how we can create a more supportive and inclusive world for autistic people.
I agree.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power, and I hope this knowledge empowers our listeners to advocate for themselves, seek the support they need, and contribute to positive change.
And remember, dear listener, you are not alone on this journey.
You're not.
There are resources available, communities ready to embrace you, and professionals who can help guide you.
Absolutely.
Never hesitate to reach out for support.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Keep asking questions. Keep learning.
Yeah.
Keep connecting. Together, we can build a world where everyone can thrive.
That's a perfect note to end on.
It is.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes. Thank you.
See you next time.